let's look at the increasing and decreasing intervals of a function. Say for example, we have a graph like this. Okay. Now here if you notice, if you go from left to right, then here it is increasing, here it is decreasing, here it is increasing. If you have a graph like this, then here it is decreasing and here it is increasing. And you will, and you may get something like this. So here it is increasing and here also it is increasing. Okay. Or you may have something like this. So decreasing, increasing, decreasing, and if it goes a little bit further, it is increasing. Okay. Now what we have to figure out is, given a function, in what intervals, say from here to here it is increasing, from here to here it is decreasing. So for what intervals is a function increasing or decreasing? And another thing you might have noticed is that while it is increasing, before it can go into decreasing mode, there will be a point at which the slope will be 0, right? So here slope is 0. Here also slope is 0. Here it is 0, here it is 0. So first thing what we do is we figure out these points at which the slope is 0. And then we look at a point just before that and after to figure out whether it is increasing or decreasing just before those critical points. Let's solve some problems. First one, f of x is equal to minus x cube plus 2x square plus 1. So first we have to figure out the points at which the slope is 0. So f prime of x equal to 0. So let's see, if we differentiate it, we get minus 3x square plus 4x equal to 0. Now here let's take minus x out. So we are left with 3x minus 4 equal to 0. That means x equal to 0. 3x minus 4 equal to 0. That means x equal to 4 by 3. So let's define the intervals. Minus infinity to 0. Then 0 to 4 by 3. And then from 4 by 3 to infinity. So these are the three intervals. Now we have to figure out the increasing decreasing nature. So let's pick a point between minus infinity to 0 and then substitute it to the f prime of x so that we get the slope at that particular point. So f prime of say minus 1 is equal to minus 3 minus 1 square plus 4 times minus 1, which gives us minus 3 minus 4, which is minus 7, which is a negative number. Without evaluating it, if you can just figure out the sign, that is more than enough. So since it is negative, this is going to be decreasing in this interval. Now let's look at a point between 0 and 4 by 3. So 4 by 3 is 1 point something, so we can select 1. So minus 3, 1 square is 1, plus 4 times 1 is, so which means 1, which is a positive number, which means in this interval it is going to be increasing. Now let's pick a number between 4 by 3 and infinity. So 1 point something to infinity. So let's pick the number 2 now. So here minus 3 times 2 square plus 4 times 2, which gives us 2 to 4 minus 12 plus 8, which gives us minus a negative number, which means in this interval it is going to be decreasing. Put this function in a graphical calculator and look at the graph, and you will notice that it is decreasing in this interval, increasing in this interval, and decreasing in this interval. Now let's look at the second problem. F of x is equal to minus x to the power of 5 plus 2x cubed plus 3. So f prime of x is equal to minus 5x4 plus 6x. Let's equate it to 0 to figure out the critical points. and this is going to be x square. Now let's take minus x square out. We have 5x square minus 6. You have to be very careful with this sign. Okay, which is equal to 0, which means x equal to 0, 5x square equal to 6, x square is equal to 6 by 5, which means x is equal to plus or minus square root of 6 by 5, which is equal to plus or minus, if we rationalize it, we get root 30 by 5. And this, if you notice, this is root 30. So, which means 5 5 is 25, 6 6 36, somewhere in between. So, let's take it as 5.5, let's say. This is just for our to figure out the values that we have to choose. Okay, so our intervals are going to be minus infinity to minus root 30 by 5. Intervals we use exact values. Okay, and then from minus root 30 by 5 to 0. From 0 to root 30 by 5, and from root 30 by 5 to infinity. Okay, now f prime of this is minus 5.5. So let's take it as uh, minus 6, which gives us here it is going to be a little bit, so we might have to use calculators. Minus 5x4, minus 5 times x to the power of 4, so root 30 by 5 to the power of 4, plus 6 times root 30 by 5, right, to the power of 2. Okay, now let's take it. This is to the power of 4, this is to the power of 2. So this is going to be a negative number, which means that this interval is going to be decreasing. Okay, f prime of, now something in between these two. So between minus 5.5 to 0. So let's take it as minus 1 because it's easier to do calculation. So minus 5 times minus 1 to the power of 4 is 1, plus 6 times minus 1 to the power of 2 is 1, so which is 1. That means it is going to be a increasing interval. Okay, now let's look at the interval 0 to root 30 by 5, that is 1. So if we take 1, we get minus 5 plus 6, which is equal to again 1. So that means in this interval also it is going to be increasing. Okay, now let's take f of 6 equal to minus 5 times 6 to the power of 4 plus 6 times 6 to the power of 2. Again, this is bigger than this, so which means it is going to be a negative number. That means in this interval it is going to reduce. So how would it look like? It might look like it is decreasing, then it is increasing, and then slope is 0, and then again it is increasing, and then it is decreasing, right? So the graph would be something like this. So here is where you have the critical points. Okay, and another thing is I keep missing this f primes, so be careful about that. Okay, now let's look at the third one. Now the third one is f of x is equal to x to the power of 4 minus 2x square plus 3. So f prime of x is equal to 4x cube minus 4x. 4x, let's take it out, we get x square minus 1. Let's equate it to 0 to see the critical points. So x equal to 0 or x square equal to 1, which means x equal to plus or minus 1. So the intervals are going to be minus infinity to minus 1, then minus 1 to 0, 0 to 1, and then from 1 to infinity. Now let's choose some values. F prime of minus 2 is equal to 4 times minus 2 times minus 2 square minus 1, which gives us minus 8 minus 2, no, not minus 2 square. This is going to be within brackets. So this will be 4 minus 1, 3, which means that this is going to be a negative number, which means this is going to be decreasing. F prime of between minus 1 and 0. So we don't have a choice but to go for fraction. So minus half, which gives us 4 times minus half times minus half square minus 1, and this gives us 2 2's. So now this is going to be minus 2 times 1 by 4 minus 1. 1 by 4 minus 1 is going to be a negative number, which means this is going to be positive. So that means in this interval it is going to be increasing. Now let's look at the next interval, that is 0 to 1. So f prime of half, this gives us 1 by 2, and then here we will have 1 by 4 minus 1. So this will become negative. So that means the overall thing is negative. So which means that here in this interval it will be decreasing. Now let's look at f prime of 1 to infinity. So let's take 2. So 4 times 2 times 2 square is 4 minus 1, which gives us this is positive, so this will be positive, which means this is an increasing. So how would the graph look like? Here it is decreasing, then increasing, then decreasing, and then finally increasing, and these are the critical points. Let's look at the fourth one. F of x is equal to minus 25x divided by x square plus 25. The denominator will never be 0, so we don't have to worry. Now let's figure out the derivative. X square plus 25 times minus 25 minus 2x times minus 25 divided by x square plus 25 square. Okay, let's simplify this. We get minus 25 x square minus 625 plus 50x divided by x square plus 25 square, which gives us 25. This is x square. So 25 x square minus 625 divided by x square plus 25 square. This is the derivative part. I evaluated it separately. I didn't equate it to 0, because then when we try to figure out the ascending descending, we need to do substitutions in the derivative, and that can create a problem. So now let's equate f prime of x equal to 0. So which means 25 x square minus 625 equal to 0, which means 25 x square equal to 625 x square is equal to plus or minus 5. Okay, so now the intervals are minus infinity to minus 5, minus 5 to 5, and then from 5 to infinity. Now let's figure out the nature of these intervals. F prime of, let's say, minus 10. I'm choosing minus 10 because it is easier to do calculation. So 25 minus 10 square is 2500 minus 625 divided by, denominator is always positive, so let's not bother with that, which means this is positive. So that means this is going to be increasing, right? Now let's look at f prime of 0. This is going to be minus 625. So denominator is always positive. So that means this is going to be decreasing. Okay. F prime of 5 to infinity. So again, let's take 10. So which gives us 2500 minus 625. So which is again positive. So it will be increasing. Fifth one, f of x is equal to minus 5x plus 15 to the power of 1 by 2. Now, since we are talking of square roots, this cannot be less than or a negative number. So, which means minus 5x plus 15 has to be greater than or equal to 0, which means minus 5x has to be greater than or equal to minus 15, which means that x has to be less than or equal to 3. So now let's do the derivative. F prime of x is equal to 1 by 2 times minus 5x plus 15 to the power of minus 1 by 2 minus 3 is minus 2 by 3 times minus 5. So which gives us minus 5 by 2 times minus 5x plus 15 2 by 3. Now if we equate it to 0, what happens? This whole thing disappears, x itself disappears. So that means there is something wrong in the sense that there are not going to be any intervals. So there is no value of x for which the slope is 0. So let's just look at figuring out what the slope is. Since there are no intervals, we can pick any point and the slope at that point will be the slope throughout. Okay, so let's say we pick x equal to 0. So f prime of 0 is equal to minus 5 by 2 times 0 plus 50, 2 by 3, which is equal to minus 5 by 2 times 15, 2 by 3. Now this is a square, so this will never be negative, which means that the slope is negative, which means that the slope is negative throughout. That is, it is descending or decreasing throughout. So the graph looks like this, right? Remember, it has to be less than or equal to 3. So let's say this is 3, then it will go something like this. It will always be decreasing. Sixth one. Okay, f of x is equal to tan of 2x in the closed interval minus pi pi. Okay, let's differentiate it. F prime of x is equal to 2 sec square x equal to 0 cos square 2x. This is 2x equal to 0. Now, which means this would become 2 equal to 0. So, which means there is something wrong since it is not differentiable. So, what do we do? We have to figure out, where all that discontinuity exists. So, first of all, there are no critical points. That is, there are no points where the slope is 0. Now, where will those discontinuities be? Denominator should not be 0. So, cos square 2x, wherever it is equal to 0, it is going to be problematic, which means cos 2x equal to 0. Let's treat this as a single angle, not 2x, let's just say theta. So, which means when is cos theta equal to 0? It is 0 when when the angle is minus 3 pi by 2, pi by 2, that is minus pi by 2, pi by 2 and 3 pi by 2, which means x is equal to minus 3 pi by 4, minus pi by 4, pi by 4 and 3 pi by 4. So these are the angles at which it is not differentiable. And if you remember the tan graph, you know it goes off to infinity. But apart from these points, what is the slope? How do we figure out that? So since there are no critical points, that means if it is ascending, it will remain ascending through. If it is descending, it will be descending through. So which means we take any one angle and try to figure out what the slope is, and that would be the slope throughout. Now, naturally, we can't pick any of these angles. Pi by 6. So 2 by, that is f prime of pi by 6 equal to cos square 2 times pi by 6, which gives us pi by 3, which gives us 2 by, now pi by 3 is what? 60 degree. So 1 by 2, which gives us 2 divided by half is 4. This is a positive number. So that means it is always ascending. Let's look at the seventh one. And this is going to be challenging. F of x is equal to minus 1 by 6 x to the power of 7 by 3 plus 14 by 3 x to the power of 1 by 3. Okay, so f prime of x is going to be minus 1 by 6 times 7 by 3. So which means 7 by 18 x to the power of 7 by 3 minus 1, that is 4 by 3 plus 1 by 3 times 14 by 3. So 14 by 9 x to the power of 1 by 3 minus 1. So minus 2 by 3. Okay. Let's see whether we can do some simplifications of this. Okay. So let's say, let's add it up 18. So what do we get? Minus 7x to the power of 4 by 3 plus 28 x to the power of minus 2 by 3. Can this be further simplified? No, for the purpose, because later on we are going to use this for doing substitution and figuring out the ascending descending, we'll leave it at this. But now let's equate it to 0. So that means minus 7x 4 by 3 plus 28x minus 2 by 3 by 18 equal to 0, which means this 18 goes off. Okay, and we end up with minus 7x to the power of 4 by 3 plus 28x to the power of minus 2 by 3 equal to 0. And here is the tricky part. What we'll do is we will take out x to the power of minus 2 by 3 common out. Minus 7 x to the power of 6 by 3. Because when we multiply it, the exponents add. So 6 minus 2 is 4. So 4 by 3. Plus 28 remains as it is, equal to 0. So here one of the solution of x is 0. Right? Now let's look at this. These two cancel. So 2. So minus 7x square plus 28 equal to 0. Minus 7x square equal to minus 28. So x square is equal to 28 by 7, that is 4, which means x equal to plus or minus 2. Right? What looked complicated worked out very well. Okay, so which means what are the intervals? The intervals are minus infinity to minus 2, minus 2 to 0, 0 to 2, and finally 2 to infinity. And now we have to figure out the ascending and descending part. Minus 7x to the power of 4 by 3 plus 28x to the power of minus 2 by 3 by 18. This is f prime of x. This we require it, and here we are going to substitute values. Let's take x values such that we can easily figure out the cube roots. So let's look at minus 7. Let's say f prime of 1000. What do we get? Now let's say minus 1000. So this gives us minus 7 times 1000, and if we take the cube root of that, we get 10. 10 to the power of 4 plus 28,000. So which means cube root of 1000 is 10. Cube root of minus 1000 is going to be minus 10 and this is going to be minus 2 divided by 18. Now here we don't have to evaluate it completely. Just notice this, that this number is going to be bigger. Absolute value of this will be bigger than this. And this is going to be a negative number. So that means the overall result will be negative, which means this is going to be descending. Right? Okay. Now let's take in the interval minus 2 comma 0. So let's take f prime of uh, minus 1, which gives us what? Minus 7 times minus 1 cube root is minus 1, right? But to the power of 4, plus 28 times minus 1 to the power of minus 2. So this would also be minus 1. So which means without really evaluating this, we realize that this is going to be negative number, this is going to be positive, but this is going to be bigger than this. So therefore this is going to be a positive number, which means this will be an increasing interval. Okay, now let's look at f prime of 1. Minus 7 times 1 to the power of 4 plus 28 times 1 to the power of minus 2. So again this is going to be bigger than this. So which means this is again going to be increasing. And finally let's look at 1000 now. F prime of 1000. Just like we took minus 1000, let's take 1000. So what happens? We get 10 to the power of 4 plus 28 10 to the power of minus 2. So this is going to be positive, this is going to be negative, but this is going to be bigger. So that means this is going to be decreasing. So decreasing, increasing, increasing, decreasing is going to look like. So you have decreasing, increasing up to 0, then again increasing up to 2, and then again decreasing. Eighth one. Now let's take a variation of the previous problem. Okay, f of x is equal to 1 by 6 times x minus 1 to the power of 7 by 3 minus 14 by 3 times x minus 1 to the power of 1 by 3 plus 2. Okay, let's figure out the derivative of this. This would be 7 by 18 times x minus 1 to the power of 4 by 3 minus 14 by 9 x minus 1 to the power of 1 by 3 will become x minus 1 to the power of minus 2 by 3, which we take it down. And this is the derivative. If we want, we can take out 9. Let's do that. So let's add it up. 18, this remains as it is, minus 28. Here it will be x minus 1 to the power of 2 by 3. So here what will happen is 4 by 3 plus 2 by 3. That is 6 by 3. And here it will be 28. Now 7 x minus 1 square minus 28 divided by 18 x minus 1 to the power of 2 by 3. Okay, I think that's enough. Let's equate it to 0 to figure out the critical points. So 7 x minus 1 minus 28, this is square, divided by 18 times x minus 1 to the power of 2 by 3 equal to 0. So which means the denominator goes off and we are left with 7 x square minus 2x plus 1 minus 28 equal to 0, which gives us, dividing throughout by 7, we get 7 1s, 7 4s, and we get x square minus 2x minus 3 equal to 0. And we know how to solve this. So x would be equal to minus 1 comma k. So our intervals are minus infinity to minus 1, minus 1 to 3, and 3 to infinity. Now we have to figure out the ascending descending nature. So let's say we take f prime of minus 2. So minus 2 if we take, we get 7 times uh, 2 minus 2 minus 1 is minus 3 square minus 28 divided by 18 times minus 2 minus 1 is minus 3, 2 by 3, which gives us 9 sevens 63 minus 28. 18 times minus 3 to the power of 2 by 3. Now here's the thing. In the denominator, minus 3 cube root is going to be a negative number, but that square will make it positive, and in the numerator also it is positive. So it is positive, which means that it is going to be increasing in this interval. Let's take the next interval. So minus 1 3, so let's take 2, which gives us 7 1 square minus 28 by uh, in the denominator we will have again x 2 minus 1 1, so 18, which gives us 7 minus 28 by 18. Denominator is positive, numerator is negative, so which means in this interval it will be descending. For the third interval, let's take, this is f prime, I think there also okay. So f prime of 4, which gives us 7 times 4 minus 1 3 square minus 28 divided by 18 times 4 minus 1 3 to the power of 2 by 3. Now here the denominator is positive, numerator is going to be 3 square is 9, 9 7 63, that is also going to be positive. So this is going to be increasing. Let's look at the ninth one. F of x is equal to minus x4 minus 2x cube plus x square. F prime of x would be minus 4x cube minus 6x plus 2x x square. Okay, now let's equate it to 0. So f prime of x equal to 0 means basically this will be equal to 0. So let's factorize this now itself. Minus 2x, let's take common out. We get 2x square plus 3x minus 1 equal to 0. So which means x equal to 0, and when we solve this we get x is equal to minus 3 plus or minus square root of 17 by 4. Okay, so the intervals are minus infinity to minus 3 minus square root of 17 by 4. The next interval is minus 3 minus square root of 17 by 4 to 0, and then from 0 to minus 3 plus root 17 by 4. From minus 3 plus root 17 by 4 to infinity. Okay, now we need to figure out the nature of these intervals. Let's take the intervals one by one. F prime of minus 2 is going to be equal to 4. So that means this is going to be increasing. F prime of minus 1, this is going to be minus 2. So this is going to be descending. F prime of 1 by 4 would be equal to 1 by 2. So which means that this is going to be increasing. And finally, f prime of 2 is going to be equal to minus 28, which means this is going to be descending. So increasing, decreasing, increasing and decreasing intervals. 10th one. F of x is equal to minus 2x square minus 8x minus 2. So f prime of x is equal to minus 4x minus 8. which gives us minus 4 times x plus 2. Okay, now let's equate it to 0. So f prime of x equal to 0 means minus 4 times x plus 2 equal to 0. So x plus 2 equal to 0, which means x equal to minus 2. So that means there is only one value of x for which the slope is 0. So the intervals are going to be minus infinity to minus 2 and from minus 2 to infinity. Okay, now let's look at f prime of, let's take it as minus 3, which is equal to minus 4 times minus 3 plus 2, which gives us minus 4 minus 1, so 4. That means in this interval it is going to be increasing. And f prime of 3 is going to give us minus 4 times 3 plus 2, which gives us minus 3 plus 2, 5, 20. So this is going to be descending. Okay, 11th one, f of x is equal to minus 1 by x plus 3. Okay, now f prime of x is going to be 1 by x plus 3 square. And now let's equate it to 0, which gives us 1 by x plus 3 square equal to 0, and this cancels out. So that means there is some problem, there is a discontinuity. That's why we are not able to differentiate it, right? So what is the point at which it is the problematic? That is, x plus 3 cannot be equal to 0, which means x cannot be equal to minus 3. So that means it is continuous in what interval? Since it is not, it cannot be equal to 0. So we will have minus infinity to minus 3 and minus 3 to infinity. The only thing is it can't be minus 3. So within these intervals, let's look at the ascending descending nature. So f prime of minus 4 is going to be 1 by minus 4 plus 3. Now this is a square in the denominator. So in every case it will be positive. So that means it is going to be ascending. And in this case also it will be ascending because the denominator is a square. So which means it will never be negative. Okay, 12th one. F of x is equal to x by x minus 4, x square minus 4. Okay, let's differentiate this. F prime of x is equal to x square minus 4 times 1 minus 2x times x divided by x square minus 4 square. Let's simplify this. We get x square minus 4 minus 2x square divided by x square minus 4 square. So this becomes minus x square minus 4 by x square minus 4 square. Now let's equate this to 0. So f prime of x equal to 0. So what happens? We get minus x square minus 4 by x square minus 4 square equal to 0, which means minus x square minus 4 equal to 0. This means minus x square equal to 4, x square equal to minus 4, which means that x equal to plus or minus 2i. But this is complex, so therefore no critical points. That means this curve is either is ascending or descending throughout, but which means that there is a point at which there is some problem, and that is nothing but x square minus 4 equal to 0, the denominator being 0, which means x equal to 4, which means x equal to plus or minus 2. So which means that the intervals are minus infinity to minus 2, minus 2 to 2, and finally from 2 to infinity. Okay, now let's see. F prime of, say, let's look at minus 3. That is going to be minus 3 square minus 3 square is 9 minus 4 by x square, that is 9 minus 4 square. The denominator being square, it will always be positive. So now the numerator is negative, which means this is going to be right. Okay. Actually, we don't have to even do any of this. If you look at this expression, the denominator is always positive, and whatever be the value of x itself, since it gets squared, it will always be positive, but these two will always be, so overall it will always be negative. So without actually going to all this trouble, we can directly say it is descending through. Now 13th one, f of x is equal to 1 by x plus 1. Now here directly we can say x plus 1 cannot be equal to 0. That means x cannot be equal to minus 1. That means immediately we know that there is certain intervals available to us. So what are those intervals? And even if we try to differentiate this and equate it to 0, what will happen? Minus 1 by x plus 1 square, right? Equating it to 0, this x will disappear totally. So we don't even have to bother with that. So now, what are the intervals? Intervals are minus infinity to minus 1 and minus 1 to infinity, right? And what is the nature in these intervals? If we take minus 2, so minus 2, let's say f prime of minus 2 is equal to minus 1 by, denominator is always squared here, so which means this will be positive, so we have negative, so that means this is going to be descending. Okay, f prime of 2, let's say, in this case what happens? Minus 1 by, denominator is always square, so it will all be negative, so which means this is also, so throughout it will be descending. Okay, now the which one? 14th one. Let's look at f of x is equal to cos x, and since it is periodic, let's restrict the interval, so minus pi to pi. Okay, so f prime of x is equal to minus sine x, and equating it to 0, what do we get? F prime of x equal to minus sine x equal to 0, which means sine x equal to 0, and which means x equal to what? X is 0 when it is 0, and when it is pi, which means it is also 0 at minus pi. So the intervals are, remember, we are restricted to minus pi to pi. So minus pi to 0, and from 0 to pi. Okay. Now, what will be the intervals? So what will be the nature of these intervals? So let's take minus pi 0. Let's take a in between value. So f prime of pi by 2, let's say. F prime of pi by 2 is going to be minus sine pi by 2. No, minus pi by 2. Now this gives us sine pi by 2. Sine pi by 2 is 1. So that means it is going to be increasing. Okay, now let's look at f prime of pi by 2, which gives us minus sine pi by 2, which gives us minus 1. That means it is going to be descending. Okay, 15th one, f of x is equal to cot of 2x. Okay, now if you remember, there are a lot of discontinuities in a cot graph, right? It is periodic, and the discontinuity also keeps repeating. Okay, so let's see what we can do. So cot can be written as cos of 2x by sine of 2x. That means the discontinuities are when sine of 2x equal to 0. So sine 2x equal to 0. That means 2x is equal to minus pi 0 pi, which means x equal to minus pi by 2, 0 and pi by 2. So these are the points at which uh, we can't figure out the slope, but for the other places we can. So let's differentiate this. F prime of x of cot 2x is minus 2 cosec square 2x. Okay, now let's equate it to 0, so we get minus 2 cosec square 2x equal to 0, which means cosec square 2x is equal to 0, which means cosec 2x equal to 0, which this cosec can be written as 1 by sine 2x equal to 0. Okay, so which means that apart from these values, minus pi by 2, 0, pi by 2, we can figure out the slope at all the other places. So if we take, so if we write it in terms of intervals, we can write it as minus pi to minus pi by 2. Remember, minus pi by 2 itself is not included. And minus pi by 2 to 0, and from 0 to pi by 2, and from pi by 2 to pi. And here again, the domain is restricted to minus pi to pi. Okay, so now what do we do? Let's again look at, pick up some points between these two values and figure out. Let's look at this interval, the first interval. Let's take minus 3 pi by 4. This will give us minus 2. So that means this is descending. F prime of minus pi by 4 is equal to again minus 2. So it is descending here also. F prime of let's take pi by 4 now, which again gives us minus 2. So it is descending here also. And finally f prime of 3 pi by 4 is also minus 2. So here also it is descending, and it is descending throughout with the same slope. But remember, in between there are uh, non-differentiable parts where we can't define the slope. Let's look at the 16th one. F of x is equal to sec x. And again, let's restrict ourselves to minus pi by pi to pi. Okay, now remember, this can be written as 1 by sine x. Now, differentiate this. F prime of x is equal to sec x is tan x sec x. Okay, let's write it in different terms. Sin x by cos x and times 1 by cos x, which is sin x by cos square x. Okay, now let's equate it to 0. So f prime of x equal to 0 means sin x by cos square x equal to 0, which implies sin x is equal to 0, which means x is equal to minus pi 0 pi. Now another thing is sec x can be written as 1 by cos x, which means that the denominator can't be 0. That means cos x cannot be 0, which means x cannot be pi minus pi by 2 and pi by 2. Right? Apart from these two values, it is continuous everywhere. So the intervals are going to be minus pi to minus pi by 2. And then from minus pi by 2 to 0. From 0 to pi by 2. and from pi by 2 to pi. So let's very quickly figure out the nature. F prime of something between minus pi and minus pi by 2. So let's say minus pi by 6, which is going to be negative. So that means this is descending. F prime of minus pi by 4 is going to be negative again. So this is going to be descending. F prime of pi by 4, this is positive. So this is ascending. F prime of 5 pi by 6 is equal to positive. So this is going to be increasing. So the nature will be decreasing, decreasing, increasing, increasing. So that is our 16th problem. Now 17th. Look at f of x is equal to sine x. Again, let's restrict ourselves to minus pi to pi. F prime of x is equal to cos x. Equating it to 0, cos x equal to 0. So when is cos x equal to 0? When x is equal to pi by 2 minus and pi by 2. Right? Intervals are going to be minus pi to minus pi by 2. And from minus pi by 2 to pi by 2. And from pi by 2 to pi. And we know that this is descending here, it is ascending here, and it is descending here. Okay, so that was 17th one. 18th one. F of x is equal to natural log of x. Okay, now here, how do we figure out this? F prime of x is equal to 1 by x, we know. If we equate it to 0, we encounter a problem. So which means there are no intervals, right? Which means that either it is ascending or it is descending throughout. So let's just figure out what the slope is, whether it is ascending or descending throughout. So interval we know is going to be 0 to infinity, right? Because x cannot be 0 or less to figure out the natural log. Now, in this interval, what is its slope? Its slope is going to be, let's take a value, natural log of 1 equal to 0, which is positive. So therefore, it is always ascending. So that's it.